I don't like to be defined by being formerly incarcerated, but it's an important part of my story, right? So I was 16 years old when I received a 77-year prison sentence. And I remember standing before the judge, and he said, it really doesn't matter that I'm giving you all this time because you're probably going to get killed in prison anyway, right? Because I was scrawny. You see me now, I'm, 6'1", 200 pounds, right? Right, but 260 pounds. But back then I was 5'8", 130 pounds. I was literally half the size I was now, right? So, but I was in a racist county, known for racism, and just another black youth being sent away at the time when they were going tough on juveniles. So I was incarcerated. My first 11 years, I was getting in and out of trouble, and then I was in a conversation with my brother who also had a life sentence, and he said something about when grandma used to write for the soap operas, and I was like, grandma used to write for the soap operas, right? So I was like, I didn't know nothing about that, right? So I called her, and then I come to find out, and then this made me interested in my family history, and the more I found out, the more I thought there's nothing that's impossible as long as you put your mind to it.
Yeah, and that must have did something because it just clicked in you. I know there was so much work happening on the inside, but then you brought a lot of that on the outside. Tell us about that transition for you.
Okay, so first off, on the inside, I noticed when I went to the lower custody levels that people who I thought had been in prison the entire time with me had been in and out of prison. So it clicked with me that we're creating a negative influence on each other. So I created something called the Redemption Project, which was to get people to abandon the criminal lifestyle. And I was going around speaking to different groups, different gangs. I know we're here to talk about American equity, so I'll just summarize that real quick. Long story short, I ended up writing a curriculum. It spread to every prison in Washington State. I taught over 2,000 people, taught other people how to teach, and our influence spread to everybody. We got all the gangs on board, including the white supremacist gangs, and we got everybody on board to really, turn things around and be a positive impact on the community.
The idea that this was something that came out of your own experience. Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm so blown away by this Redemption Project. We had Blaze on, Vidal, Blaze Vincent, just last week. And honestly, hearing his story about how important that Redemption Project was in his own understanding of how to turn his stuff around. This is really what, we would hope that was happening in these institutions already, but it wasn't.
No, it's not how they're designed.
It took the thought of you and others to say, we got to do something different. That to me is a huge piece of your story.
And it created a lot of powerful leaders who are now out here in the community. And even in a business sense, there's the brother I know named Ronnie Jackson. And every time I talk to him, he says, I cannot thank you enough for the Redemption Project, because the communication skills that taught him when you're dealing with all different races and everything, right? The communication skills that taught him. His first year as a car salesman, he made $259,000.
Wow.
Because he could sell cars like nobody else, because he learned how to deal with everybody else, right? So it's like, it translates into more than just community activism. It translates to people's personal life and their business lives out here.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Anthony, you're the man. That is like the dopest stuff. This is exactly what we need to be celebrating in our community. The idea is that the brilliance we have, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We don't have to wait for somebody to do it. When we do it for ourselves, when we create these systems, create these processes, this is something that is huge. How did you get it to spread into all of these prisons in that regard? How did that even happen?
So I started off by tapping into the most influential people. The Department of Corrections was actually trying to, hold it back, right? But they let me do just enough. And then they started doing things like they'd take a leader of the Sureños, leader of the GDs, or Gangster Disciples, stuff like that. And they'd throw them in the hole, and then they'd cuss them out. Be like, we know you're lying. We know you're fake. So they'd get out and talk to me, and they'd be like, hey, bro, I believe in what we're doing, but I can't do it. And I'd be like, hey, look, man, they want you to quit. We can't quit. We got to, persevere and keep going, right? So the more we persevered, the more they saw how it actually benefited them, because violence started plummeting, right? So they saw the benefit to themselves, and then they wanted to start spreading it. And ultimately, they started asking our guys to go out, and then they sent me to the worst prisons because they didn't think nobody else could do it, right? So like the West Complex in Walla Walla. When I got there, the superintendent at the time, who ended up becoming the Secretary of Prisons, Steve Sinclair, he told me, expect a riot or a staff assault within the next couple of weeks, because we've had one every 4 to 6 weeks for the last 6 years straight. And I said, well, that's the reason you brought me here. And I came there with a 3-part plan on how to stem that stuff. And for the year that I was there, they didn't have any.
Wow. It's really, I mean, we were just talking about impact with Edward and Debrina, and you really have created something that is just truly phenomenal and impactful in the lives of our brothers and sisters that are on the inside. So I just really appreciate your hard work there. But again, I mean, as I was saying, you did things inside. You said there's something else that needs to be done on the outside. I want to talk a little bit about the establishment of this idea, and now it's in full, scale of American equity and justice. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so I actually had the idea a few years before I was released, and I was trying to reach out to colleges, universities. Nobody wanted to listen to me, right? I was just some guy in prison with a crazy idea of how to use tech to create equity in the criminal justice system. Right? But then after I got out, I went to work for the Seattle Clemency Project, and I built out a statewide reentry system to help people who coming out from incarceration to get established in the community. And it was while I was there that I was doing a pro bono legal training for Microsoft, and I shared my idea there, and they were like, "Let's do it." And now we got the American Equity and Justice Group. We've been doing presentations around the country. We've done probably over 100 presentations everywhere from Harvard University to Supreme Courts in 3 different states, and everybody that we present to is mind blown. And we're actually doing our national launch at Georgetown University next month.
Oh my gosh, what is it?
So it'll actually measure. I wanted to be able to measure not only like you see a college study, because I saw the college studies talking about racial inequities in the criminal justice system, right? So my question was, why should it take 4 to 6 years when you have technology that you can do it in minutes, right? And I also wanted to know, well, if these are the numbers, who's responsible for the numbers? So if you know where the root of the problem is, you know how to go about changing it, right? So who are the judges? Who are the prosecutors? What are the decisions they make? And then you can dial it in with every crime. So there's thousands of different options because the database is made in a way that is interactive with the public. So you can get online and search out whatever you're looking for, and it'll spit out the numbers in seconds. Last year, when the state Supreme Court ruled on Blake, the drug possession laws, they first went to the Department of Correction and asked them what's their numbers. They gave them some lowball number, then they turned to us, and we actually showed that it applied to over 126,000 people in the last 20 years alone. So we were able to show not only the numbers, but we were able to back up the state Supreme Court's ruling and show where the racial disparities laid, who were the judges, what were the counties, who were the people, who were the individuals, and track it down in a matter of minutes.
I could bow down to you. I mean, this is like the dope. When you were presenting this at my AFA, when I first was engaged to you, oh, okay, this is what this brother's doing. I promise you, I was like, whoa. I was just like, why isn't this already a thing? Just like what you were doing on the inside, right? I mean, it's like the fact that you've been able to say there's an easier way to do this, and it is so true. All of this stuff is like really public record.
Exactly.
And so you're able to really glean from this data that's out there already and do it in a searchable way for everybody out there to say, look, okay, I got my family is dealing with this case. We got this judge on the docket.
Exactly.
Let's look at how that judge has historically, ran in terms of, or how they've judged over the course of their career. Now, this website that you've launched in partnership with Microsoft does just that.
Yeah, I mean, I just had somebody ask me yesterday, and it was last minute notice because the brother's getting resentenced as we speak. His court hearings right now, right? And he said, "What's this judge historical record?" And we saw that she actually sentenced African Americans at a number twice as high as whites.
Wow. This is game changing for the justice system in general. It's game changing because any defense attorney, public defender, now they don't have to worry about all of this stuff. They can really go right here. They can really find ways to help their clients in a way that is beyond measure. I got to ask what this feels like to you to know that your life and legacy is being poured into. You got something amazing on the inside, something amazing on the outside. How is it for you to be able to use your lived experience in these ways?
I mean, it feels great, but I believe it's in all of us. And it really comes down to, do you believe it's possible? Because not believing something's possible is what stops a lot of us from accomplishing stuff, right? So it's great to be able to have that belief in not only myself, but in us. And I, it's only the beginning.
if this is only the beginning, I can't wait to see where you're at in some years, man, because this is a phenomenal beginning, number one. And, you know, as I have you here, I mean, earlier this week, we were just talking about the case, Devon, the officer that only got 18 months or something, right? So literally I was thinking about your platform and I was thinking, man, how could we as a public understand how that now this is a new case for that judge because it was an officer, right? That she was judging and sentencing, but it just was such an outrage. Kim Potter, right? It's just such an outrage to think that you as a judge have that much power to not really listen to any recommendations, to go based on what you feel or what you think should happen in this case. And I think what your platform does is it really helps to showcase those biases that aren't supposed to be there in that arena.
Exactly. And it could be a tool that anybody who really wanted to seek justice can measure themselves against, right? But it's also something I believe, this is why, when we first came out with it, we had all kind of state agencies saying, "Oh yeah, well, how's it?" He was like, "No," because I don't want to rely on your funding, and I don't want you to hold it back from the public, right? And by it being available to the public, it allows us to not only hold the judges and prosecutors and all the actors responsible, it also allows us to hold the legislators responsible, right? Because I mean, they could sell us this lip service about systemic issues and everything else and act like they understand, but when we have the numbers and we're able to say, "Oh no, look at this, and this here," why aren't you doing something to remedy it? Because ultimately it comes from there. So, or ultimately it comes from us because we have the power and the voice. So, educating our community, which I'm big on, is legislative process, and then putting that weight on them, but having the numbers to back it up so that we can, really push this forward.
I'm so in awe of this entire thing. I'm like so giddy over here in my seat. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we need in this society. There's so many different things that are wrong, right? And I love being a part of this generation where we are righting wrongs internally. Again, we're not waiting for nobody. We're not trying to beg for all these handouts. You did it. Microsoft was like, this is dope. We got to be on board with this. I mean, it makes sense. Right. And it's no longer about, these systems of oppression. How are we going to dismantle them? It is through us understanding the data, the numbers more. It is through us not just understanding it, but then implementing solutions around it, how we actually eradicate it. So I can't thank you enough for giving to this effort, for having that thought that, look, this is something that needs to be done. And for you to be able to make that connection with Microsoft to really launch it to this level. Kudos to you for traveling the country and getting other states to understand this. It's a beautiful thing. I'm going to be following your journey because it's so amazing. And, so Armand, you have that overlay right there so we can make sure that people know exactly how to reach this website. Anthony, tell us about the website.
The website is americanequity.org. And it has our backstory on it. It has everything. And you can interact with the database on the website. Just go to use the dashboard, and it has the different tabs, has the different search filters. Just play around with it and reach out to us and give us some feedback. Or if you want some kind of training for nonprofit orgs, obviously we can't do that for individuals, but if nonprofit organizations want to know how to utilize this better, reach out to us and we can set up a training with you.
Oh my goodness. So in awe. Anthony. Thank you so much for joining me on Feel Good Friday. You have really, this is already was elevated with T-Dub. It just kept rising. I'm so glad that you were here. I will definitely be following up with you because I think there are so many different ways for organizations to utilize this data, particularly around crafting solutions to close the wealth divide. That's what I think a lot of your data is going to showcase. So I can't wait to really just tap in even more with you and what you have going on. Thank you so much. If people want to follow you, I don't know if you have social handles, but I want to put it out there, give you an opportunity for people to really stay engaged.
I need to up my social media game, but we're on LinkedIn, American Equity and Justice Group. Also just started the Instagram, some of the things we just started, but I haven't spent 26 years in prison. Social media is something I'm still getting used to. So,
Look, I was outside the whole time and I'm still getting used to it, man.
Still getting used to it.
I'm telling you, okay? I'm embedded in community. That's a whole digital space. Sometimes it's a lot. Thank you so much again, Anthony, for joining me.